What is up, everybody? Very excited for another episode here and for you guys to hear the conversation that I was able to have with Courtney, somebody that definitely exudes a lot of positivity and great energy, but also kind of shows her journey from a young age of not really having a set plan of where she necessarily wanted to go in a sense with her sports journey, and then it just kind of coming to her at a more natural level. And so it's cool to see her journey to the women's professional soccer league, the NWSL, and it's a great experience for her, and also a great opportunity to just see the power that sports has on somebody and the positivity that it can have on their life, and how you can speak so highly of something and still be so passionate in something and be a great person and understand that there is sacrifice, there is a lot of give there, but in the end you can completely reach your goals. So exciting episode for you guys to listen to. Remember, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Join us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and help us grow this thing. So without further ado, here's Courtney. Welcome everybody out to another episode over here at Sojo. Very excited for our guest today. We have Courtney Brown, and Courtney is a professional soccer player over here in the States, but over for Washington. Thanks for joining us on the show today, Courtney.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, this will be really fun, and I think it'll be cool to have your perspective, especially someone that's currently in the sport, playing, doing what hopefully they love, but getting to just understand your journey and hear a little bit more about your insights in that. So tell us a little bit about your current situation and where you're playing, maybe a little bit more about how long you've been there, a little bit.
Yeah, so I am playing for the Washington Spirit right now. The team is located in Washington, D.C. I just got drafted here in January from University of Utah, so I played 5 seasons at the U. I got my undergrad in accounting, and then I went on and got my master's in accounting, and I graduated in December, got drafted here in January, and I've been here since January. I've been loving
Nice.
it. I've never lived away from Utah until now. The
Very cool.
East Coast is very, very different, but it's a really cool place to be. So I'm really enjoying my
Sweet.
time right now.
Nice. So drafted, just got transplanted to a whole new life, whole new place. So now playing professional soccer, let's, I guess, take a chance to rewind and kind of understand how you got there. So, was soccer always your go-to sport, or how did kind of sports start for you in your life?
So I think sports in general have always interested me. My parents signed me up for everything that they could from, when I was a young age. I think soccer was my first sport. AYSO, I think you can sign up at what, age 4?
Yeah, yeah.
So I played AYSO. I remember being on teams and I would score so many goals for my team that they would make me switch to the other team at halftime and score goals for the other team so that the other team's kids didn't feel so bad. And so I guess I guess soccer has brought out the competitive side of me since I was a young girl.
Yeah.
But I did play like basketball. I played t-ball. I ran track in junior high and high school. I just loved anything athletic, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've just always been drawn to physical activity. I like to work out. I like to run. I like to obviously play sports. So it's been a good career path for me.
Oh, that's cool to hear. And as far as, so AYSO, maybe for when you started playing soccer, whatnot, switching teams. So when that all started, was it, you said your parents signed you up for all sorts of different sports. Did you have other siblings that played sports? You just kind of followed in suit? Were your parents big athletes themselves? What's kind of like the family dynamic behind that?
Yeah, I mean, my parents played sports growing up. My dad played basketball and baseball. My mom ran track. She's always been a big runner my whole life. She played soccer too and volleyball.
Yeah.
And then my older siblings that also played soccer. I had a sister play lacrosse in college. My older brother played football in high school and he did track as well. My younger brother played soccer, ran track. So we really bonded over sports. Like that was a
Yeah.
huge part of our family dynamic. One of us was always running to practice and coming home late from travel trips, and that
Yeah.
was just how it was in our family.
That makes sense. So it's kind of the culture there. Would you say, do you feel like you were forced to play sports, or do you feel it was kind of a decision? Like if you were to say, hey, I don't want to play soccer this year, or I don't want to do any sports, how would that have been taken by your family?
I think my parents would have been 100% supportive of whatever I wanted to do. Obviously, like when I'm 4 and they sign me up for soccer, I don't have a say in that, you know? But I think my parents did a great job of introducing me to a lot of different um, hobbies when I was young and seeing whatever I attached myself to and you know, gently um, prodding me towards whatever I was interested in. I think
Yeah.
if I hadn't chosen a sport, I think I would have put a lot of time and energy into something else, a different hobby, like, I don't know, something artsy or something musical or any other sort of hobby. My parents would
Yeah.
have totally helped me find whatever I wanted to do and been fully supportive of whatever that was.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you have a good support system as far as that all comes, and your parents there, your family. So playing soccer at a young age, playing all these different sports, seeing your siblings play it, what was it at a young age that, I mean, like, or when did you decide soccer was the sport for you? Like, when did you find that buy-in that you were like, man, I love playing soccer?
I think it kind of came early for me. I remember I was playing AYSO and my coach had a daughter that was on my AYSO team, and he was also the coach for a comp team in Utah. And his daughter also played for his comp team. And he saw me at AYSO and he invited me to come try out for his comp team. I was probably in first or second grade. And so my parents took me to comp tryouts and I made the team. And that was really what introduced me to the world of comp soccer and
Yeah,
what that entails. Like that was the opening to this wild journey that I've been on ever since.
yeah,
Um, and looking back, like I feel like that was really a defining moment in my career. Like that was the moment where I was like, oh, I'm on a comp soccer team. And I had a really awesome coach. I had a really fun team, a fun group of girls that also made me love soccer. I love to be at practice. I love to be around the people. And of course, I love the sport. And that really just helped me grow my love for the game.
yeah. So let's reverse and dive into that when you talk about the world of comp soccer for those that might not have any insight into it. Maybe they've only done football their whole life or whatnot, but let's get into like what was it, the world of comp soccer? What was it like? How was the practice, the travel, all of that?
Yeah, so I mean, there are obviously varying levels of comp soccer like there are in other sports. And I was lucky enough to be on teams that were really talented. We had some really talented players. At one point, I was on a team and where every single one of the players on my team was committed to a D1 college. Every single one of us. And so, like, I was very lucky to be surrounded by like very athletic people, very athletic girls, but also great coaches. The comp soccer world can get kind of crazy, especially when you get into like those higher levels where it is obviously the kid's life, but it also becomes their parents' life. You hear about the soccer moms, you hear about the soccer moms, and that it's funny, but it's true. Like some people are so involved in their sports or in their kids' sports. Um, but with soccer, like as I got older,
Mhm.
I was playing in tournaments that were far away. So I'm traveling a lot. I'm missing a lot of school. I'm missing school dances. I am missing lots of social activities. Like it really just started to consume my life. And in the moment, I didn't even care.
Yeah,
I just was like, I want to play soccer. That's what I love to
yeah,
do. That's what I like to do. That's what I want to do. I'm going to college for it. Like I am full throttle on the soccer game. Okay. And I guess I didn't really realize what I was sacrificing at the time. And now looking back now that I'm older, I can more fully see like, wow, I missed like multiple proms. I missed all sorts of dances. I missed like birthday parties. I missed my brother coming home from his mission because I was playing soccer. Like, what? And at the time it just was that's how it was. I was always at soccer.
Yeah. I mean, that's so thinking back at it, looking back at it, would you have changed anything though?
See, yeah, that's where I'm conflicted is because I'm like, I wish I was there for those moments,
Yeah.
but I also don't think that you make it to a professional level without a high level of commitment. And of
Yeah.
course, there are much more important things than soccer in this life, but you do have to have like almost a crazy level of commitment to
Yeah.
elevate your game and to get opportunities to play at high levels.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know that I would have changed it because it's obviously gotten me here, and I'm super grateful that I'm here.
Yeah.
But I do realize that, wow, that was a lot of sacrifice.
And I think I like your perspective on that because I think too often people look at the past and they're like, man, I really missed out on some of these moments, different key things. But at the same time, you're happy with where you are. Like your current spot, it's not obviously the end goal in your path and everything you're doing, but you're so happy with where you are, on your team, your whole situation that's hard to be like if you change something, you tweak something, how would that affect it,
Right.
the whole path, everything from there later on. So it's interesting though when you think about all the things that you missed, all those, do you feel like those around you understood? Or do you feel like you kind of got viewed differently because you were missing all of these different moments?
No, I think within my family understood, and I think within my soccer team, of course, my soccer team understood because we were all in the same boat, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, the friends I had, my friends were very supportive, and they had just grown up with me being so involved with soccer that it was normal. It was normal
yeah,
for me to not be able to do things on the weekends, for me to like miss, going on a weekend trip with them or whatever it was. It was just normal. And I was lucky to be surrounded by people who were supportive of the soccer because
yeah,
if they weren't, I honestly don't know how I would have felt. Like it probably would have been pretty conflicting for me because obviously I wanted to have friends, I wanted to have these relationships, but also like I love soccer and I
yeah,
really, ever since I was young, I've really wanted to play at a high level. And so
yeah.
thankfully the people around me were really supportive of me pursuing those goals.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point too, talking about the conflict that you might have had in the sense of, I mean, it's already hard enough going through, junior high, high school, friends, there can be different cliques, different groups, all of that. And then on top of it, now you're feeling like you're missing out on these opportunities because you're playing soccer, you're doing all of that too. So how important was it to have a friend group that did understand that? And I guess let me double up on this question. Were all your friends athletes themselves or not?
Yeah, I mean, it was super important. And my friends were all, I would say they were all involved in something, whether it was sports or whether it was like cheer or dance
Yeah,
or something musical. So they all had, I guess, some level of understanding of like, this is a commitment. I've made these commitments. Like, this is something that I like to do. Like, they could all relate to that in some sense.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's important for most kids to have, right? Is it's important for them to pursue hobbies and to pursue goals. And so I obviously was surrounded by these friends who had not similar hobbies, but similar experiences. And that
hmm,
was what helped me continue down the path was, oh, my friends understand. Like they get it. This is normal. This is what I do. This is just
yeah,
how it is.
yeah. No, I think that's cool to see that you had a group that could support you at that level, even if it wasn't, soccer or whatnot. They could relate to you, and I think that is a big component to have, and maybe something that other people don't, or maybe why they don't get to where they want to be because they're not surrounded by those people that understand. Like if you
Hmm.
were always feeling challenged by your friends, like, hey, why don't you come hang out? Like, why don't you just miss a practice? Why don't
Right.
it starts to derail you, and then you're more in conflict than you feel supported. So I think that's a great point you pull out. So going back to the comp soccer aspect, how many hours do you feel like you were putting in between practice and then between, traveling to games and such?
Oh, that's a good question. See, by the time I was in high school, I was practicing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We got Fridays off, and then we played Saturdays, and then sometimes Sundays. And so if we had a travel trip, we would travel usually on Friday. Travel trips were usually Friday, come home late Sunday night, which is, I mean, that's a pretty big commitment for a high schooler, or
Yeah,
I mean, any age, really, even in college while you're trying to do school. Like, that's a huge time commitment. Um, but I loved it. Like, I loved that life. I loved doing it. By the time I was in high school, our parents had stopped traveling with us, and we would have like a team mom or a team dad, and we would all just meet at the airport. The team mom or dad would be in charge of us for the weekend so that our parents
yeah,
didn't have to come and take off work and, spend a lot of money getting hotels and flights. And then we would just fly as a team, fly as a group, play the games, take care of business, and come home, be ready for school the next morning.
yeah. How many girls traveled on these trips?
I probably had 18 on my comp teams, and we would
Yeah,
all travel. They traveled
yeah,
everyone. That wasn't how it was in college, but in
yeah.
comp, they did travel everyone.
So 18 girls going all over the place. You have a team mom
Yeah,
kind of chaperoning, helping you guys out, making sure, plus your coaches. So I mean, that's a big group. That's a decent sized group to.
it
And at
is.
what age did you start flying all over the place?
I think when I started to, let's think. I think my first big trip was to Texas, to Frisco. That was probably like eighth grade. Eighth
Okay,
grade is
okay.
when I started to do that.
Yeah,
And then, I mean, we went to Florida. We went to California all the time. We went to Seattle all the time. The furthest I went, I think, was Florida for
yeah,
club.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. So we're talking maybe 14. You have to now change your mindset. As a 14-year-old, you're doing things that I think college athletes struggle with to a point because you're having to deal with all your homework, but now you're also worrying about like whole travel. Like you're traveling to a different place that you don't know to play, to do soccer and everything, come back and then go through the whole school routine to repeat that concept.
Mhm.
So that's crazy at that age. Do you feel like looking back at it, do you feel like that's too much? Like comp soccer is like pushed at a young age too hard, or do you feel like it is just a component that has to be there?
That's a good question, honestly. And I think it depends on the kid.
Yeah,
I think for me, it was not too much. I think I
yeah,
enjoyed it quite a bit. I loved it. I loved every second of it. Like my team was so much fun. And so to
yeah,
go on travel trips with no parents, with 17 of your best friends, like that's
yeah,
fun, you know?
yeah,
And you get to play soccer too. Like that's uh, the ideal life.
yeah,
I do think that if like your kid's not that invested into it, then yeah, it's too much. It's too
yeah,
much. Um, Obviously, like me and my teammates, we were going on to play in college, and so
yeah.
we had to get used to that schedule. We had to at least experience it a little bit so that we could be prepared for the college game.
No, that makes sense.
Um, so like, I mean, if the kid's not that interested or doesn't really see a future with it, then yeah, maybe that's too much.
I mean, that's a fair point. And I ask because I reflect back, hearing everybody's different practice schedules, I think is super interesting because there's not many football athletes that I know that they're putting in that many hours that you were at that young of an age. Most of them are just playing rec, maybe some type of comp football, depending on your state. California, you can play year round. Texas, you can play year round. Like that's not something you can do in Utah and some of those colder states. So they're not having as many hours put in the week. I mean, maybe you're at 10, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then they're
Hmm.
playing games, and that's kind of it. Soccer, you're traveling. Basketball, similar. They have travel. Baseball, similar. They have travel. Talking to somebody about gymnastics, and she was putting in 40 hours a week. at an incredibly young age. And so it's just interesting to see and look at the different structure that's kind of put on athletes as youth and how they handle it and go through it. But to your point, you're on a team with all future collegiate athletes. At what age did the recruiting start for you?
Yeah, the recruiting in the women's soccer has changed a lot, even since I've been in college. But when I was going through the recruiting process, I think I started getting recruited when I was in eighth grade, like the summer before eighth grade, probably.
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty young. And
yeah,
since me being in college, the rules have changed now where you can't really recruit players until their junior year of high school. But I did not have those rules. I
yeah.
committed when I was, let's see, I think I committed right before, oh, I committed in ninth grade to University of Utah. So I'm like 14 years old. I don't even have a car. I don't even have my license, and I've just committed to college. I had no idea. I had no
Yeah,
idea what I was doing. But in the moment, I of course thought I did.
yeah,
I think that the recruiting changes, at least in the women's soccer, has really helped because a lot of my friends who went into Utah with me, we had a class of 8 freshmen. By the time I graduated, I was the only one left
interesting.
because they had either quit or transferred out.
Yeah,
And so now where kids are recruiting later, I feel like maybe they have a better idea of how they will handle being away from home, how they will handle college, what kind of program they want to do in college too, because that's also important,
yeah,
what you want to study. Um, so I feel very lucky that I picked well when I was 14. I
yeah.
don't think that happens, or that didn't happen very often. So I was one of the lucky ones.
So, I mean, obviously you're in the same program as your friends and you did great in your program, got to where you are because of it. Did you feel like you were tied to that commitment long term? Like there was no way you could get out of it, even if you wanted to go somewhere else? Like how did that commitment feel at such a young age and then kind of working your way up through high school?
Yeah, I mean, the commitment, it was funny because I didn't really have like an older sibling who went through the recruiting process. I didn't really know older players who had gone through the recruiting process very well, so I couldn't really ask them like how to navigate it.
Yeah,
Um, as far as like changing schools, not that I ever wanted to change schools, but I didn't even know
yeah,
that really you could do that until I was probably a junior in high school, so I'd already been committed for years by then. Um, but I really did feel a strong tie to Utah. I remember going on, I was recruited by BYU too, and I remember going on a visit to BYU, and it was about the time that I was thinking about committing to them, and I just felt so sick. I felt so sick to my stomach the whole time I was on campus. And then
yeah,
the next week, I went on a visit to Utah and felt so much better. I felt so at ease. I felt so at peace. And so I went with Utah.
yeah,
And thankfully that worked out for me.
yeah. I mean, and that's a big deal because for you too, I mean, BYU has is a strong program in women's
Right,
soccer.
they
Like
are.
that's a big program. So to be recruited by them is pretty prestigious. Like that's a big honor. And then you're just like, I'm gonna go with Utah, which no hate on Utah, but they're not
Right,
seen as like a BYU, correct?
right,
So I mean, that's a big deal for you. And also, I mean, you talk about your brother on a mission. I mean, there's got to be religious ties too, as far as
right,
in-state BYU and things like that. So
for sure.
how'd you kind of like navigate? I know you said you felt better at Utah, but what was it like the navigating between BYU, where I think a lot of people probably felt like you should have been pushed to, and then you ended up at Utah?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, my thoughts, I don't mean to make it very this talk religious, but I had really prayed about it. Like,
Yeah,
Heavenly Father, please help me, you know?
yeah, no,
Please
yeah,
help me. And then I went on my visit and I felt terrible while I was there. I felt like obviously BYU is a very successful program and
for
I
sure.
felt like they made me feel like I should be I'm so lucky that they're even considering me, rather than
Gotcha,
me being the
gotcha.
commodity.
Yeah,
As at Utah, it was like, oh, we are so happy that you're here with us. Like, let us show
yeah,
you what we have to offer for you as an athlete and as a student. Whereas BYU, I don't know, it felt funny. Like, it felt
yeah,
like, oh, you should be so grateful that we're considering you, you
yeah.
know? It was weird.
I mean, that's fair. And I asked too, not even to get too much of religion, but because I had a really good friend of mine, she running track, she was getting recruited by BYU, but she felt like when she went there for her recruiting trip, it was more of, hey, I'm just another number. I wasn't
Oh,
anything
interesting.
special. And then ends up going and signing and having an awesome career at Weber State. But it was just so funny that same kind of mindset. Like I didn't feel like I was something special. It was just like, hey,
Yeah.
you're just another athlete kind of coming in. And she didn't want to get lost in that. Like again, great track program, a national track program, turning out great athletes. And she went with a smaller program that didn't have nearly the accolades or the success, but able to have a phenomenal career. And it
Yeah.
just was the better fit for her.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, go where you feel like it's the best fit for you.
and I like that you brought up the change too in recruiting for women's soccer because to your point, at such a young age, I think that's so hard to have all that pressure on you and you're just like, yeah, like I have a school. But at least in football, a lot of those offers aren't actually, you can't even commit to it fully. Like you can say, hey, I want to go there, but it's not, it doesn't mean anything until your senior year.
Yeah.
So you can have these offers out there on the table. I don't think people understand that is there's these offers that are out there on the table, but you can't actually commit to that school. You can't sign with that school until your senior year. Like it doesn't mean anything. So they could pull or revoke that offer, which is crazy.
So that's how it is in women's soccer too. All the commitment
Okay.
is a verbal
Yep, yep.
agreement. Like
Yeah,
they've talked to you about what sort of scholarship you'll be on, and you're like, yeah, okay, that sounds good to me. I'll come play soccer for you. But you don't sign
yeah,
anything until National Signing Day your senior
yep.
year. So yeah, I mean, it's very similar to football. Any party can revoke whatever they had agreed upon.
Yeah, which is a weird concept to me because it's like you recruited this kid at such a young age, and then imagine your junior year, that offer just being pulled out from under you.
I
It's just
know.
gone. Like
Yeah.
that's such a hard thing to swallow. But then to your point, like you didn't have anyone to walk you through the process, which I think is kind of just a lack of education, especially for athletes. There should be something to help along that way a little bit more as far as your recruiting to understand the process. Like, hey, you can verbally commit, but just as they can pull the offer, like you can rescind it. Like you can go
Right.
somewhere else, you can explore other schools. And I think that's something that isn't expressed enough, especially in a sport that's maybe not nearly as mainstream or getting all the publicity that some of the other sports get. Like it needs to get that same attention. To your point, like you didn't have anyone to show you
Right.
the ways to go or what you wanted to do or anything like that. So, I mean, that's hard. But getting recruited at such a young age, I mean, that's exciting. That's cool. And it's so it sounds like it tied in perfectly when you started your comp soccer. So was comp soccer really the catalyst that got you out there to be seen by recruits then?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I started soccer when I was comp soccer when I was first or second grade, I think I said. And like as I progressed as an athlete and I started going, like my team started going to more prestigious tournaments. We would go to there's lots of prestigious tournaments in California. We would go to lots of California and play in front of lots of college coaches. Like I remember playing in games and the whole sideline um, would be filled with college coaches watching us.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a lot of pressure.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, I felt like I had committed so young, like pretty early on in the recruiting process, so I didn't have the pressure because I already knew I was going to Utah. But like I
Yeah.
saw the toll that it took on my teammates.
Yeah.
Like they would psych themselves out when college coaches were there to watch them. Um, but yeah, I mean, college or comp soccer for sure set me up for the college scene. Like playing in those higher level games, playing in those more, big tournaments for sure got me exposed, for sure got me a college scholarship.
Yeah. And would you say, because I think that's the other thing when you think about soccer, you're playing high school soccer and you win a state title or something like, yeah, but then you're still playing comp soccer outside of that, right?
Uh,
Like you're still doing a whole lot. So would you say your teams though that your comp teams are way better than what you played with as far as like the high school level?
Yeah, high school soccer in Utah, I don't know if it's this way in other states, but in Utah, it's funny because the level is not super great.
Yeah,
And I know like a lot of other sports, kids will get recruited from their high school team to go to college,
yeah,
but that's not how it works for women's soccer.
yeah,
Um, my college coaches, when I was getting recruited, frankly told me like we don't care about high school. Like you
yeah,
should be starting on your high school team. You should be scoring lots of goals in your high school team because the levels really
yeah,
it's not super great. So yeah, my comp team was where it was a little more serious, a little more competitive.
yeah. That's kind of the vibe I was getting. It doesn't seem like, honestly, too, you're recruited so young, you're already being watched. It doesn't sound like you get into soccer and you're just playing soccer growing up and then you play at the high school level that's the way to get in these doors. Like you have to
Yeah.
be doing so much more outside of high school. High school is like a
Yes.
baseline. You're just, yeah, you should be
Yes.
starting, you should be doing it, but that doesn't mean anything. Like let's see the competition at a higher level.
Right. High school was more for fun. I didn't even play high school my junior and senior year because,
Really? Oh, wow.
yeah, because I was trying to get ready for college. And I was playing in a program called the Development Academy. And if
Yeah,
you played in the academy, you couldn't play high school sports because the academy season ran through the high school season. And so you couldn't play on both at the same time. So I was like, well, I'm going to play for the academy because it's supposed to be a higher level. It's supposed to help me prep for college better than high school is.
yeah. No, that makes sense. So, I mean, in that regard too, soccer's kind of like it's a little different, but kind of like baseball. I feel like the best baseball players don't necessarily even play at high school because they're trying to play at a higher level. So someone will even skip that and go play in junior colleges and stuff and just go straight to the MLB draft.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to assume the same thing in the soccer world. Some of the top players aren't even playing in college. They're just getting picked up by professional teams or playing overseas. And
It's starting to turn that way now. Yeah. Yeah. Like some U18 players are turning pro,
yeah,
whether it's here or in the States. That's starting to become much more popular. We have a 17-year-old on my team, so that is becoming more of a thing.
yeah. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, at 17, I know that's huge in the guys, but to even see it in the girls soccer, really transitioning to that point. I mean, that's cool too. It just shows you the game is being elevated and it's growing there. So I mean, that's cool. So comp soccer, playing all the way up. I would have thought, playing your senior years, you would have had state titles maybe you would have played, but it's not the case. That's so funny to think. So then you go to the University of Utah. What was it like going from comp soccer to college soccer?
Yeah, the transition's really different because now obviously you're living away from home.
Mm,
You're doing something new for school. The whole structure of your life just changes. Um, so that was what every freshman has to navigate. That's pretty difficult, honestly, that whole change of scenery. Um, the level of play too is incredibly elevated in college from the club standpoint. So you have to get used to the speed of play and the physicality of the college game now.
yeah.
And I remember my first, one of my hardest transitions was lifting weights. I had never lifted weights all
That's what I
through
was I was gonna
youth
ask you
soccer.
because
No, never.
comp soccer probably didn't have like a comp gym that you guys had your
No.
lifting sessions with or anything like that. Like I would imagine maybe the high school would have been the only place you would have done that, and you didn't do that junior and senior
Uh-uh.
year. So
No.
dang,
No, I didn't, I never lifted. And so that started day one, freshman year, was we're lifting weights multiple times a week. So that was
yeah,
quite the curveball for me. But now, like, it's so necessary. It's so necessary to lift weights, to have resistance training, to
mm-hmm.
be healthy. And it's like wild to think back that there was a point of my career where I didn't lift weights. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. When I look back at it and just playing younger sports and whatever it was, it's like, man, I really wasn't doing any of this.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, I still started it, I guess high school, ninth grade would have been when I kind of started doing some of that. And we're obviously doing a lot more in football than you would have done in soccer and some of those things. But yeah, looking back at it, I guess if you could have helped younger you in some type of weight training, what would it have been?
I think I would have told myself to maybe start, like, I don't know if getting a personal trainer would be the right route, but like doing something, maybe starting my junior or senior year of high school. Because when you're young, your body's like a rubber band, like
Yep.
kids don't necessarily need to be deadlifting once a week, you know? Um, but when you get older and as your body matures, you do need some resistance training. And I think the transition into college would have been a little bit easier for me if I had started like junior or senior year, just getting at least some experience under my belt, building some muscle to get ready for the college level.
That makes a lot of sense. And especially playing comp soccer, I don't know what you would have done. To your point, maybe a
Right, yeah.
personal trainer.
I never even thought
Um,
about it when I was at the comp level. Like
yeah,
never, that was so foreign to me
yeah.
until college.
No, and it's cool to see. And I think for anyone that's young, I think an easy thing to start out with is anything like resistance bands because it's something you can have at your house.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
teaches you a process. And I think it is good to have a base, to your point, going into, real heavy lifting, starting to use plates and different things. Just having any type of base is always going to be better than nothing. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
so. No, I get that.
Well, and
So
like so many freshmen would come in and they would get injured their freshman season. That's super common. And it's because the load of training and games and weightlifting is really hard on their body. It's almost like a shock to
yeah,
their body, and they can't physically keep up because they're not
yeah,
ready. Luckily, I don't know how, but I squeaked through the cracks and stayed healthy my freshman season. But like a lot of girls go through injuries their freshman year because their body's not ready.
yeah. I mean, that's a great point you bring up because even you said comp soccer is good. I mean, you're playing on team with a bunch of future collegiate athletes, but then it's still elevating you to a higher level, and now you're lifting at a collegiate level from zero. So you now raise this level and then this from nothing and shove it
Right,
all together in one
right.
thing. I mean, that's a lot. That
It's a lot.
100%, that is a lot. It feels like if that is the case, though, you'd love for a college to help out with that earlier on, especially for your point, you're going to Utah, you're going in a developmental league doing that. Like if they could have given you something in early stages to help you prepare for that, to build up to that.
Right. Like if they were allowed to, that would, I think, benefit many, many
Yeah.
athletes.
No, that's a good point. That's definitely something to think on. And because I think you're probably there with a lot of, I'd say just in general, a lot of other sports that don't require maybe crazy lifting that's not at the high school aren't going to get that experience. I mean,
Right.
tennis player probably isn't going to be doing any type of lifting, golfers, but there's a whole lot of benefits and there can be specific movements for your sport to help with endurance, to
Yes.
help with plasticity, like so many different things. So crazy. That's a good point. So freshman year, don't get injured, you're transitioning to college, the level of play, everything like that, living in a new dorm. So at this point, you're also starting schooling, going into accounting, um, doing all of that. So did you experience something different as far as your love of the game? I know you talked about athletes, you got different teammates that either transferred or just gave up. Did anything change for you in college?
Yeah, I think my love for it intensified in college. So my freshman year, I had a really awesome group of senior girls, and I really felt like some of them kind of took me under their wing. And at the end of the season, so women's soccer season runs from August until the national championship is the first week of December. And then the following January is the draft to go into the league.
Yep.
And so we had finished the season, and some of the seniors that I really looked up to had entered the draft. And that was where I kind of got introduced to women's professional soccer and started to realize, wow, this could really be a reality for me. If I really want to pursue being a professional athlete, that's something that I could do. My coaches are connected. I'm playing at a big Pac-12 school. The Pac-12 is one of the best conferences, or it was before it's not a conference anymore. It was one of the best conferences for women's soccer. Like I could really, have this goal and make it a reality. And so some of my teammates entered the draft, and that was what showed me the kind of the path to get to the pros. And ever since I had seen them go through that process, I almost recommitted myself to soccer. Like I want to train individually in the off season. I want to like be the best athlete that I can be so I can continue to progress and make it into the professional level.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool to hear because I think a lot of people, to your point, it either intensifies, you kind of meet the challenge, or it just becomes so much that you've been doing it for so long. I think that's where the burnout does happen for a lot of athletes. So I guess what kept you, I know you said you fell more in love and some of your teammates burned out. So what do you think the big switch difference was between you and them?
I've thought about this a lot, and I think um, I had a really great experience in college. Some of
Yeah.
my friends who went to other schools did not have a great experience in college. And if they didn't like their coach or if they didn't like their teammates, then they associated that with not liking soccer and it burned them out or made them want to quit or transfer. Another thing is I feel like my parents and my family never pushed any sort of pressure on me, I guess. Like I
Yeah.
had teammates whose parents, I mean, you always hear about kids' parents who would like get mad at them on the car ride home from the game
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
they mess up on plays. My parents were never like that. They were never like that. Like, of course, we talked about the game, but they never got mad at me for playing bad. Even if
Yeah.
I did play, I knew I played bad. I didn't need my parents yelling at me, telling me I played bad too. My
Yeah.
parents always were super supportive of me. My family was always super supportive of me. That in college, when I decided to really kind of ramp up my commitment to the game, they were all for it. And they were like a safe space for me to grow as an athlete, because they'd never gone mad at me for my performances.
Yeah.
My performances aren't, they don't care about my performances. They care about me as human. And I think my teammates or my friends who had burned out had parents that had put so much pressure on them. Parents that had yelled at them after games. We're like, isn't that so silly,
Yeah.
And I think that the pressure just got too much and it wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't fun
Yeah.
when you went home on Sunday night and at your family dinner, you're, you know, getting yelled at for your soccer game. That's dumb, right?
Yeah.
And so I think parents and family supporting me through really helped me stay on track to doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah. No, I love everything you said there. And I think you hit especially the point that you said they just treated you like a human. And I
Right,
think that's a huge thing for anyone listening to this is too often we just see athletes as athletes and you forget about the person behind the athlete. Like once they step off the field, they're a normal person. They
right,
they want to be loved, they want to go get a Slurpee, like they want to go do all the normal
right,
things in
exactly.
the world without being ridiculed. Like an athlete already is always going to be their hardest critic amongst everything they do. They know the mistakes they made, and if they don't, they're willing to go talk to a coach or something. And I love to the point you're talking about your parents because it doesn't sound like they were trying to coach you after a game. They were leaving the coaching to your coach, to the staff to handle
Exactly.
that. And they were just being your
Exactly.
parents. And that's what you wanted from them. You didn't need your parents to come at you and tell you different things. And to a point, obviously they can't. After so far, you get up in so many levels and
Right.
different
Yeah.
things. Like you just don't know things, and you know things, and it'd be weird. It'd be one of those moments. Like, hey, you should have done this. And you're like, yeah, I
Like,
should have done
yeah,
that.
sure.
So understandable there. But what would you say to? I mean, you said it. You had teammates that was their parents though that was doing that to them. So if you could speak directly to somebody's parents that's doing that, like what would you say to them to get them to stop or help them understand what they're doing and how it's ruining the athlete and not helping them?
Well, I think like my friends who had parents like that, they committed to play college soccer because that's what their parents wanted them to do. Not because, and of course, maybe they did like soccer, but
Yeah,
they almost always burned out when they were at college and then ended up quitting because they didn't go to that level fueled by their own fire. They were doing
yeah,
it to please parents, you know,
yeah,
and that's just like it's so hard as an athlete to have all of the pressures already from your coaches, from your teammates, from everything around you, from yourself too, to have your parents on top of that. Like that is I could totally see how that is just so crushing. So I
yeah,
think I would say to parents, like exactly how you said it, parents be parents, like coaches be coaches. And if your child is struggling with something in their sport, encourage them to go talk to the coaches about it. You know, playing time or anything, really. Like let the coaches be coaches. Encourage them to go to their coaches. That's why they're there. And just be the parent, be the support system.
yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Just being the support system, because at the end of the day, that's what they need to come back to. That's what they,
Right.
and to the point, I mean, you hear about all the traveling you've talked about. And so I'm sure a lot of these parents are putting up a lot of money. I mean, it's not cheap, to travel on a comp soccer team, all the money put in to play on a developmental team. So it has to be crushing to a point to put all that money into an athlete, into your son, your daughter, and they get to college and they're just like, hey, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just so I lament with the parents there because that's a lot. But at the same time, I feel to your point, that's probably something that didn't just happen in college. It's been building and it was never discussed,
Yeah.
never
Yeah. I mean,
talked
I
about.
totally see the parents' point of view. Like that is a huge sacrifice that they make to pay for their kids' comp sports. But I
Hmm.
think that there's more value to comp sports than getting a college soccer, or not a college, but a college scholarship.
Yeah,
Like the lessons that your kids learns being on a team, having commitment, having resilience, bouncing back from bad losses, bouncing back from bad performances. Like there's a lot of soft skills that essentially you are paying for your kid to develop through sport
yeah,
that, that's probably worth it.
yeah. No,
Even if they didn't
absolutely.
make it in college, those skills and those lessons and the relationships that they built, that was a really valuable experience despite them not going on into college or going on beyond college.
Yeah. And it's so cool to see because this is stuff I've studied, things I've learned myself through coaching, through education, different things I've done. But to hear an athlete that's at the professional level be able to say these exact same things, say it's not just getting to the professional level, it's not just getting to college. Like if it's high school and that's it, like you still learn so much and you get it.
Right,
Sports is a classroom in and of itself. It's
right,
a whole extension from what you might learn in the classroom, education wise, to be an accountant or whatever it is. You're still learning all these unique soft skills that you're not learning in the classroom, that you're
for
not
sure.
learning elsewhere. So, I mean, your determination, your resilient, all those different attributes that you have come from the sports that you have, your hard work, your buy-in, your commitment. Like that all comes from your path in soccer, the things that you've done, even the aspect of seeing your friends leave soccer and get out of it, like making you even more tied into, hey, this is for me. Like I'm bought in for myself, not because of my parents, not because of my friends. Like I'm here because of me. So
Hmm.
shows that accountability in yourself. So I love it. I love hearing that, and you guys can, everyone listening can see that this is what we're talking about. Like sports, this whole journey that we're on is why we say don't quit, don't give up on it, because it can give you so much more than just a chance to play in college or
Right.
your goal of being in the NFL or whatever, NBA, National Women's Soccer League, like whatever it is. There's way more you can learn than just on the field aspects, all the other things that come in it with the practices and whatnot. So I think it's cool too. It sounds like you had an awesome team, you had good coaches, so you didn't have some of those distractions maybe that some people might say, or I like your tie-in that they associated teammates and bad coaching to soccer and not loving soccer, and it might have just not been the right fit. You go to a different program and you find something that works for you, like that's great. Like I think sometimes the transfer portal is looked through evil eyes, and I definitely can see that. being
Hmm.
a coach and being on the backside of that in a university. But at the same time, if you need to get somewhere else because it doesn't fit for you and you find your love for the game or whatever you're doing again, it makes perfect sense. And I think that
I
should be
agree.
something that athletes have access to.
I agree.
So back to college, playing freshman year, don't get injured. You start to see some of these seniors go through the draft, go through the process. You're now playing through your soccer years up there at the university. Was there any real struggles or things that were hard for you going through that? I mean, with soccer, it was just like you loved it so much, it was easy. You just went out, practiced, played all the way to the draft, or was there anything that kind of stopped you, held you back, made it hard for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's challenges, ups and downs, no matter what you do, I think, on the way. We had a big coaching change my junior year, and
Yeah.
so our head coach had gotten let go, and we got a brand new head coach that I had never met. Um, and so obviously playing through a coaching change is difficult for on an individual level, but also on a team level. Getting to know a new system, getting to know a new person as your coach, building that relationship of trust. Um, that it's difficult. It's more difficult than what I think people realize is like you've come into a program committed to the old coach,
Mhm. Yeah.
and then all of a sudden everything up and change, and a new guy comes in, and it's like, oh crap, what if this new guy doesn't like me? You know, it's risky, or it feels risky, it feels scary. Um, Luckily, we had a great new hire, and he was awesome with us. He's still there, but that was pretty difficult for my team during my college years.
Going through that. I mean, yeah, to your point, you do commit to a staff and a certain coach. So to
Right?
experience something different like that, that's a curveball. I mean, and I think that does make some people want to jump ship automatically. Like this
It
isn't
does.
what I wanted, I'm out. And so to your point too, you rode that out. I mean, that takes a lot too. But how did you, I guess, because you do have a new coach and you do have they want to instill different things, different drills, different practice regimen, all that. So how did you kind of work through that? What was it that helped you? What habits did you develop in the past that helped you work through that?
I had some really fun teammates that I became really close with, and I think leaning on them helped me a lot because I already loved soccer. I loved my teammates, and now the big question mark was, am I going to love my coach too? Um, Thankfully, like I did end up loving my coach, and I think um, I'm shy by nature, and so I really had to push out of my comfort zone to get to know him because I do
Yeah,
not like to meet new people. I really hate it. And
yeah,
so forcing myself to push out of my comfort zone and get to know him, put some trust in him,
yeah,
really helped me adjust to him quicker than what I think I organically would have if I didn't push myself out of my comfort zone to go meet with him, to talk soccer with him, talk tactics with him, just get to know him as a coach and as a person so that I felt comfortable playing in front of him.
yeah. No, I think it's always funny too when you hear that from, I think there's more athletes than people will associate with the word, an introvert than people think. I think a lot of people think athletes are brash and they're loud and rambunctious and whatnot, but there's a
Hmm.
lot of athletes that are introverts, and
For
it can
sure.
be hard. It can be a challenge, to your point, to speak up and say what you want to say and be a leader in a team. I mean, how'd you manage that too? I mean, you were at Utah for 4 seasons or 5 seasons?
5.
5 seasons. So you had that additional year playing there. Was that because of COVID or
Yeah, it was a COVID
okay?
year.
So you got the COVID year, so you had your fifth year. So being a fifth year senior, were you looked at as one of the leaders on the team then?
Yeah, so I had kind of a unique leadership experience at Utah because my freshman year, obviously we had senior captains, and then so there are 11 players on the soccer field
Yeah.
at a time, and 9 of our 11 starters graduated. And so me and a sophomore the next season were the only returning starters on the team. And so I'm going to my sophomore year. I'm one of 2 returning starters, and all of our senior leadership had graduated.
Yeah.
And like I'm pretty young, right? Like, not super mature yet, but they put me on the leadership council because they
Yeah.
didn't outright give out captain bands because we didn't
Yeah.
really have anybody who was sticking out. And so they made a leadership council. And so I was on the leadership council. They helped me grow and develop some leadership skills there. And then my junior, senior, and fifth year seasons, I was a captain.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work. Being a captain is a lot of work. Like, that's no joke. I don't know if people realize how much goes into being a captain, especially at a college level, um, where you have a lot of like young freshmen who are coming in and experiencing college for the first time, life away from home for the first time, trying to get them to gel with the fifth year seniors who are doing their masters, getting that whole, the two ends of the spectrum to just gel together. Also
Yeah.
managing like a dry season, whether your team's going to have a dry season or not. That's pretty hard, especially with younger players who want to come in and experience the college life, you know? It's like, well, what are we going to do about alcohol consumption? Lots of other things like housing. Housing is so difficult. Like,
Yeah.
are you living with teammates? Are you not living with teammates? Is it a good idea for you to live with your boyfriend? Like trying
Yeah.
to help teammates navigate these situations. And then also running summer trainings. So in women's soccer, before August 1st, your coaches can't be in much contact with you. They can't run trainings, no drills,
Yeah.
whatever. And so a lot of times the team will have a standard to come in like a month before season starts August 1st. So we'll be here right after the 4th of July, or we would come in right after the 4th of July. And then I would be in charge of running training sessions for that whole month for my
Yeah.
team. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of work and keeping track of the gear, keeping track of all the girls. Lots of work, right?
Yeah.
But I think it taught me a ton of lessons about responsibility and about valuing lots of different types of personalities,
Hmm.
seeing what types of personalities bring things to the table, what they bring to the table, um, how to get people to connect. It was a great experience, but like I won't lie, it was a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's cool too because you talk about it. I mean, 3 years as a captain is to their point in and of itself. Just being captain on the senior year is a lot of work, but then you did it for 3 seasons. Like that's a lot on your shoulders, running practices during NCAA dead periods and whatnot, handling all the girls. But then think about this: if you didn't go to professional soccer, you started career being an accountant, using your degree, whatever you wanted. Do you feel like all those experiences that you just talked about being captain would just give you a leg up as far as working in a professional setting?
Oh, for sure. I think when I was at Utah, they would always tell us that, oh, employers always want to hire student athletes. They always want to hire student athletes. And I thought that that was just something that they told us because they
Yeah,
felt bad because all of our time was consumed by our sport and school. So none of us could go get work experience. So
yeah,
they were just like blowing smoke, trying to make us feel better about our
yeah,
abysmal resumes.
yeah,
Um, But no, now that I've been in the pros, even more people have said that to me. Is like
yeah.
student athletes and captains especially develop a lot of soft skills that are essential in the workplace that really are needed. And I guess I don't know for sure, but I guess not many people have is from
Hmm.
what people have described the experience to me. So yeah, I think there are many skills that
Yeah,
can translate into a professional workspace outside of sport.
yeah. And I wanted to throw that out you just because it, to your point, I think a lot of athletes do hear that, like, hey, people want to hire college athletes, different things like that, but it's also understanding why. Now you understand why you have value. So when you're in a meeting after you finish college and you're in those meetings with employers, it's important to understand like, hey, I led a team and this is why I would be a good asset here to work for your company. This is why I've been a leader. I've done this stuff. I've scheduled things out and you've done a lot of what seems like simple and remedial tasks but other people haven't done it. And I think the other thing is it makes you a competent worker, which is something that you don't see in the workforce from others that might come in, is they just don't have the competent skills to go out, be ambitious, be a self-starter, because that's all you know. That's
Yeah,
you're like, I show up and I just sit here and do nothing, or no, you're like, I'm showing up, I got to be doing something. Like, what can I do? How can I help out? Like, it's been built into you because of sport,
right.
because being a leader. So no, it's great. And again, being a captain and being an introvert, like, that's a cool concept in and of itself, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of growth that had to happen there. Like, I really had to learn how to have difficult conversations with
Mm.
people because that is a necessity on a team. You have to confront conflict.
Yeah,
And you have to do it in a way that is beneficial to the team and productive rather than distractive um or or in a way that makes the player feel like you're tearing them down. Like you really have to walk that line very well. And being someone who is maybe a little bit more introverted, like it required a lot of growth from me to have those types of conversations.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but I think you also have the skill of being an introvert. I think sometimes people think the loudest voice in the room knows the most, but a lot of times, if you know, you don't say anything. Like you just kind of keep to yourself and you're quiet. But being an introvert, you can relate to that, and so you can see those type of people and reach out to them and be like, "Hey, like, what do you think it is, or what's your opinion?" And then you get something that no one else even thought about because of that mindset that you have.
For sure. For sure.
So, so now going up, let's jump to the played your seasons. And as far as that goes, played all your seasons at Utah. Now you're in the draft, going through that experience. Tell us a little bit like how that is. Lead up to the draft, that experience, and then like kind of getting to where you are now.
Yeah, so my fifth year, my fifth season, we had some really unfortunate injuries. And so I ended up playing out of position. And I was really
Okay.
nervous about that because I was like, I'm about to go to the draft, my
Yeah.
last season, and I'm not
Yeah.
even playing my position because I have to, we had to cover. Like we
So
had
what
to
was your
switch things
primary
up at the lineup.
position?
So I was primarily an attacking mid in
Okay.
college.
Okay.
And then during my last season, I was playing a lot of center back, a lot of outside back, and a lot of holding mid, which is more of a defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like, I mean, obviously that those aren't my strong suits. They're not my position. And so I felt like, oh, I'm not showing my best self and I'm about
Yeah.
to go to the draft. Like this feels really risky. Thankfully, I still ended up getting drafted to the Spirit. I think a lot thanks to my coach, who was really great about reaching out to teams about me, really great about making connections for me, um, and going to bat for me essentially. So leading up to draft day, um, teams that were interested in you, they would a lot of times do what they would call a culture call. So they would call you and try to get to know you to see if you would culturally be a good fit for their team because they were considering drafting you. So I
Yeah.
culture called with a couple of teams. Some teams had reached out to my college coach about me, asking for film, asking for some of my data. Um, and Spirit was one of the teams that I had talked with on Zoom before the draft, and I was really excited about him. I was really excited about him because Spirit has, first off, like a really awesome owner who pumps a lot of money into the club so that we can get what we need as athletes. And she has this awesome vision about elevating women's sports.
Yeah.
So I guess, oh, they shared a stat with us in a meeting a couple weeks ago. I think it was 9% of athlete data is
Yeah.
from male athletes. Or sorry, from female athletes. The rest are from male athletes. And so this owner's vision, her name's Michelle. Michelle's vision is to get more data on female athletes so that you know how best to care for female athletes rather than treating them as little men, right? Like there are very distinct differences between males and females, and that's a great thing. That's,
Yeah.
that's how it's supposed to be. That's a great thing. And the problem is where we start treating women like little men. Like our
Yeah.
bodies are very, very different. And so she has put a lot of money and resources into developing research on female athletes to support them best as females. And so I was really excited about that. And thankfully, Spirit, I guess I passed the culture call because they ended up drafting me. So everything worked out. It's been great so far.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So how was, because I don't know how. I think outside of, to your point, and it's dumb that male sports dominate this aspect, but how was draft night for you? Like what's the feel? Like were you just sitting at your home? Was it like a 2 day process, 1 day? Like how was that?
Yeah, so the draft was one night, and I was just watching at home with my parents and my brother and my husband. And like I was feeling super, super nervous, super, super nervous. When my name finally got called, like it was almost like an out of body experience. Like
Yeah.
I almost didn't even know what to do.
Did
I
you have
couldn't
an
believe it was
inkling?
happening.
Like, did you have any idea that you might get picked, or was it you're just like, please,
Yeah,
like,
the cat was kind of out of the bag. I knew I was getting drafted, but I didn't know to where and when
come,
I was getting drafted.
yeah,
So my coach had kept that a secret, but he had talked, I guess coaches had slipped to him that they were going to draft me, but
yeah,
he didn't tell me where it was because he wanted it to be a surprise and when
yeah,
it was going to happen. So
yeah,
I knew I was getting picked. I just didn't know where.
yeah.
And being drafted into this league, you have to report a week later. And so, yeah, so it's like it's your draft night, and I'm going to wherever the team is within
Yeah,
a week. So it's a pretty short turnaround. And
yeah,
so I was kind of anxious about that because obviously I have to move out of my apartment, um, packing things up, getting ready. I just didn't, I knew I was leaving. I just didn't know
yeah.
where I was going.
No,
So that was
that
nerve
makes sense.
wracking. That was nerve
Yeah,
wracking. But then when I finally got drafted, like, I mean, it was just the best, craziest thing ever. Like, you've thought about that moment for so long. My mom was
yeah.
crying. My dad was cheering. It was sweet. It was a sweet moment.
No, that's so cool. That's so cool. What I've always wanted to ask this aspect though. How did you feel knowing that you had zero say in where you were going?
Yeah. See, that's a big point of controversy right now within the league. It is weird. It is weird that you don't have a say in where you're going. Because in other parts of the world, pretty much every other soccer league in the world, you get an agent and then you can
Mhm.
kind of pick from the teams on who you want to communicate with and hopefully find a contract. In the States is the only place where they have a draft for women's soccer. Um, it was stressful. It was for sure
Yeah,
stressful because I
yeah.
had no idea where I was going to be in a week. Um, and I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones who lucked out with a team that they really wanted to go to.
No, that's cool that you did get to go somewhere you wanted. But to your point, I mean, totally different side of the United States over there on the East Coast from where you
Yeah,
are. Familiarity, family, like all that just gone, uprooted, and you're to a new place. And I know there's comedians that have said skits on the same topic, like you graduate from Harvard or Princeton, you're the top of their class, and they're like, all right, you're going to like Tulsa, Oklahoma to work in this law firm. Like that doesn't
yeah,
happen. You get to graduate and you get
I
to
know.
choose where you get to go, and you
Right.
didn't. Like you're at the top of your level, top of your game, did all this, and then it's just like you're going here.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, you're so excited for it.
You're so
It's just
excited. Yeah. I
no,
know
I
it's
mean
it's a two-edged sword for sure.
no, that's cool. That's cool. And now you're over there with Washington. Sounds like you have an incredible organization over there. I'm really happy to hear that you have an organization that's empowering everything that you're all about. You know, everything that you ladies are playing for, what you want in the future. You have an organization that's behind your back. And it's not just in words too. It sounds like financially they're investing a lot in all of you.
Yeah.
So that's
No,
awesome to
it's a
hear.
cool spot. Cool
That's
spot to be
awesome.
in.
So now playing professionally, I'm sure, another tier up, another level. How was it to, because it's not just getting drafted, you still have to make the team, right? You're not
Yes.
just signed. It's not like you're a first round pick and you're basically on the team no matter what, as long as you don't really mess up. Like you still had to go make the team, right?
Yeah, so when you get drafted, that doesn't guarantee you a contract at all. Nobody gets a contract right off the bat. You still have to show up to preseason and you have to perform. And even if you go undrafted, but you get invited to preseason, you're in the same boat as the draftees. Like,
Yeah,
you still have to fight for a contract just the same as the draftees are. And so
yeah,
you go to preseason and, rosters are capped at 26. And so they already have, like X amount of players, then that leaves them with X amount of spots to give. And there are, 10 of us here who are uncontracted fighting for
yeah,
contracts. So it's a
yeah,
pretty stressful environment. Um, for sure, probably the most stressful period of my life, for sure. Um, but I think I learned a ton about myself during that time and about the professional environment because, like, I wasn't under contract, nothing was guaranteed. You come from college where it's like you're kind of very established, you know everyone, you are like a very key role on the team into an environment where it's like, who is this girl? What's her name again?
yeah,
And it's very humbling. It's super humbling, but it's cool to see how you how I tried to dig myself out of that. And you just show up and you shut up and you work hard.
yeah,
And that's what worked out for me, thankfully. Um, but yeah, it was super difficult. It was incredibly difficult because
yeah,
I showed up for preseason and we went to California for a few weeks. Then we came back to Virginia for about a week, and then we went to Florida for a few weeks. And I didn't find out that they were going to offer me a contract until about halfway through the Florida trip. So I'd already been out here 5-ish weeks. No,
yeah,
no, probably 4-ish weeks.
yeah,
So 4 weeks of living away from my husband, living in a new state with nobody that I know, not even knowing if I was going to make the team or not. Like
yeah,
it was really, it really affected me, honestly.
yeah,
Um, But then as soon as I found out that they were going to be extending me a contract, like tons of weight just lifts off your shoulders and you're
yeah,
able to play more free. You feel more yourself. You feel more like a part of something. Um, and you feel like, okay, now I can settle down because I know that I'll be here for much longer than much longer than what I had planned for
yeah,
initially because I didn't know if I was going to be here or not.
yeah. I mean, that's crazy too, to the point you're uprooted without knowing, even if you're going to stay there 4 weeks, you're
Mhm.
like playing it week by week. And to your point, I mean, it's stressful. How do you manage that mental aspect? I mean, that's a lot of stress. Like you could say it's a lot of anxiety building up inside of you. Like, how did you manage that? What gave you the tools or resources to manage that?
Yeah, it was a lot of anxiety. It was a ton of stress. I remember like just feeling it, physically feeling it, like, wow, this is the reality that I'm in right now. Um, I think what helped me a lot was I tried to befriend people around me. I tried to make friends with the girls on the team. I tried to get to know the staff better because I had learned in college with that new coaching change, like, I need to get out of my comfort zone. I need to get comfortable with the person that I'm uncomfortable with because then I feel better. Then I
Yeah,
feel, you know, like I have a relationship with them. I trust them. I don't feel so nervous to play in front of them. So I really tried to get out of my comfort zone and befriend the girls, befriend my teammates,
yeah,
and try to get to know my coach so that I wasn't so nervous in front of him, in front of my teammates. Um, And yeah, I mean, that's totally what helped me get through that
yeah.
period.
No, that's awesome. You didn't run up to the owner and just say, "Hey, keep me, sign me. I
No,
promise
right?
that'll be
Oh
best
my
decision
gosh.
ever."
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So playing now, you made the team. You're experiencing your first professional season. Has it been everything you dreamed of?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty sweet. It's a really,
Yeah,
really awesome gig. Like I can't complain. Lots of my teammates are like players that I've watched for a really long time, and so it's cool that I am now on the same team as them. I interact with them every day. They're my friends now. Like that's almost mind blowing to me, you know? Um, like we have a really talented staff too. My coach, he just got here a couple weeks ago because he was the coach at Barcelona, and the Barcelona team is like the best. I mean, Barcelona is probably the best club in the world,
Yeah.
and the soccer there is so tactical. Like the soccer IQ is so high, and so to have him here now, have that Barcelona coach now coaching me,
Yeah.
it's pretty surreal. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool, and so it's everything. This rookie season's been everything I could have ever wanted and more.
Yeah. There's one moment, and because I know about it, I want to point out, you have to tell me about the iconic first goal moment.
Oh my gosh. It was so it was so funny. So we're playing Gotham. We're in New Jersey playing at Red Bull
Yeah.
Arena. And we start off the game kind of flat. And Gotham has us pinned back, and then probably 20-ish minutes into the game, we get a breakaway. I'm sprinting down the field. My teammate Croy has the ball. It's like me and her versus three Gotham defenders plus their goalkeeper. And she sneaks a pass through all the Gotham defenders, and somehow it gets to me, who's running free on the backside. And it was like I got the ball, I looked up, and it was like my vision, like tunnel visioned right to the near post. And I was like, I guess I'm kicking it there, and I just shot it right to the near post, and it went in, thankfully. And I was so excited. That vision of the ball hitting the
Yeah.
back of the net, like it's just burned into my brain
Yeah.
forever. That's
Yeah.
something I'll never forget, you know?
Yeah.
It was a really cool moment. And my husband was there, and his mom was there, and his brother were there. And then two of our friends from high school were there too. They had
Yeah.
traveled from Utah to New York to watch the game. And so it was pretty special that they had come all that way. And then I ended up scoring my first goal.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. Like
It was sweet.
that moment, everything. That's cool. That's cool. And I think I saw a little social media video by your husband doing some wishing in a well or something on there.
Yes.
I
Oh,
don't
yeah, you did
know.
see that?
I
So
did see that.
his
I did see that.
family, the people he was there with, his mom and brother and friends, they were at, I think, the Met Museum the day before. And I guess the popular thing to do is flip a coin into the fountain outside the Met and make a wish.
Yeah.
And I have a rule with my family and with Camet that you do not talk to me about scoring goals and you do not talk to me about injuries because you jinx
Respect.
it.
Respect.
Okay?
Yep.
You do not talk about those things.
Yep. Yep.
And so Cameron, that's my husband's name, he had his coin and he flipped his coin into the pond and said that his wish was for me to score a goal. But he said, don't tell Courtney because she'll be mad at me that I spoke about it and jinxed her. And then the next day he was at my game and I scored a goal. And so I had no idea that he had made that wish or that he had
Yeah.
said that. After the game they showed me that video and it was so sweet. It was so funny.
That's cool. That's cool. Shout out to the husband. Obviously, like 1% him, 99% you, but that's cool.
Right,
That's
right.
a cool moment.
Yeah, he can take some credit for that.
You know, more the wish or more all the years leading up to that moment, but that's
Right.
cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it was sick.
So now, I mean, you had an incredible journey, and it sounds like the whole time you've had an incredible support system. And I think it shows dividends to your upbringing, your parents just being that support system, great friends around you, and then really just putting your head down and being determined on your goal. But the cool thing I learned too from another coach is they stopped focusing on goals with his team. He's a head coach of a volleyball team, and his
Hmm.
whole thing is building championship habits. And you can read that in what is it, Atomic Habits too. Same concept. And it sounds like just with everything you did, your goal was always to play professionally, but you built that and made that happen through your habits, your dedication to not missing practices, your dedication to, I mean, going and playing at the University of Utah. Like you just saw all these different things through, you put in the work, put in the training, all that, and just shows those habits that you built. Like it's a really cool journey to kind of see it all through. So I appreciate you sharing it with us. I did want to shoot you some questions. I know
Okay.
there's a whole list. I'm not gonna give them all to you, but I do have a couple after having this conversation that I think are going to be really cool just to kind of hear your mindset from.
Sweet, let's do it.
All right, so let's jump on. Okay, so as far as it goes with, you know, women's sports, and I think we talked a little bit about lifting and stuff, but what stigmas would you like to get away from for like women that are trying to like get into lifting, getting into lifting weights, training and stuff that it is beneficial? Like what stigmas would you like to break?
That's a great, that is a really awesome question. And I think the biggest one for me is working out to get skinny. Like, get rid of that one. You work out
Yeah,
to take care of your body and to be healthy and to feel good. Like, there's so many benefits to working out, lifting weights included, but many, many ways you can work out. Like, doing it to be thin or to shape your body into a certain way shouldn't be like why you're doing it. It's so that you can be healthy.
yeah,
That is like the goal. It's how you feel, it's your health. It's not about how you look.
yeah. No, I like that. I like that. And I like because you talked about it earlier with the owner of the team, like you guys aren't little men, you're your own,
Mhm.
you're women. It's the female soccer and you're gonna play it differently. You're gonna train differently. The things that
Yes,
you
for
you all
sure.
need, it's all gonna be different and catered to you. And that shouldn't be seen as a hindrance, but it's also something that should be celebrated to that point. It is different.
For
And
sure.
you're not little men. You're not getting, man shoulders or nothing
No,
like
right?
that. Like it
Right.
it
No.
doesn't it doesn't happen. And I think that is something that needs to be pointed out. It just when you break down the biology of it, it doesn't even make sense because women tend to build the lower half of their body more and men tend to build the upper half of their body. So if you're scared about building man shoulders and getting massive by like
I know.
you'd have to try so hard and that would be your
Right.
goal. Like it's not just gonna happen. So I appreciate
Right.
you saying that and talking about that and kind of the focus of why you're doing it. I like that's a good point. Okay. What I yeah, this is a good one. So when did you realize sport, or in this case, I guess soccer was important?
I think I realized that I loved it when I was young and that it was important to me when I was young. Probably when comps started to get really busy, I was probably sixth grade, fifth or sixth grade. And that's where I was like, okay, this is an important part of my life. This is something that I'm committing myself to for the time being. But then I think I started to realize that it's important, as in like, it's important for me because it's going to be my future job. Was my freshman year of college when I saw my teammates go through the
Yeah,
draft process. And I was like, wow, that could literally be my job. So I'm going to make this really important to me so that I can continue to work on it, continue to train on my own, motivate myself to do things in the off season, to, take care of my body, to do all these things that will help me as an athlete so that I can make this as a way that I provide for myself now.
yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I think those are great points. How has sports, or I guess the sports community, supported you during tough times?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the sport community that I have always been involved in is obviously my soccer team. How has that community supported me? Um, I have been really blessed and have felt really lucky to have a ton of teammates throughout the years that I've really connected with and that I've become really good friends with. Um, and they've been real friends, like friends that will correct me when I need correction, friends that are there for me when I need help. Um, and I think about all the teammates that I've had and how they have helped shape me into the type of athlete that I am today. And I think their sense of community and the sense of belonging that I got from being on a team has also made me feel very comfortable as an athlete and feel like being on a team or being an athlete is something that I enjoy and somewhere that I actually belong,
Mhm.
which has also given me the confidence to pursue it as a professional.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So I appreciate your thoughts there and everything that you said. Last question is, how do you think sports can contribute to social change and community development?
Wow. I think sports are a great way for lots of different types of people to come together and enjoy the sport. I mean, sports are important, but like in the grand scheme of things, if your team wins or loses, like it's not the end of the world. So, with that being said, like, somebody from different sides of, say, the political spectrum, they can come together and enjoy a soccer game together. It's
Yeah,
just a common ground for people to find that they enjoy and that they can talk about, and bring people together because sports are a popular thing. Like they're fun
yeah,
to watch, they're entertaining, and lots of
yeah.
different people from lots of different backgrounds enjoy sports. And so it's a great way to connect people and to build relationships that maybe weren't or would be hard to build outside of being connected through a sport.
No, I think you worded that really well, and just the unity that sports can bring is really cool to see. So that's really all we have. I'd love to hear your jersey. I wanted to give the last little bit to you. I don't know if you have any personal shout outs, anything you're doing, or any little tidbits of advice you'd love to give, young soccer girls, young women in the sport, anything like that. Just this is your time.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my advice would be to just enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy the sport, enjoy your team, enjoy the journey. Um, because if you don't love it, you don't have to do it, and feel no pressure to step away if, you know, you want to pursue other things. Like, do what you love to do. As for a shout out, I guess I'll shout out my husband, Cameron, for manifesting my goal. I will give him a little bit of credit on it. Thank you, Cameron.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I love that you said that. Do what you love.
Yeah,
And I think that's a great kind of closing segment, because when you talk about everything you did in college, like you always talk, I had great girls around me and it was fun. Like you kept bringing up the word fun. And it sounds like something I've learned about is deliberate play, like deliberately finding fun moments within practice, within games to make it so it isn't a grind. It isn't just a grind, but there is enjoyable moments within it. Like if it's not fun, if your journey isn't fun and enjoyable, you're probably on the wrong path. You're
for
probably
sure.
doing something wrong. Because it should be. Like at the end of the day, if it's not fun, like you're missing out on something. There's
For sure.
something that's definitely missing there. So I appreciate it, Courtney. This has been an awesome discussion with you. I hope everybody else gets a ton of information, little tidbits and nuggets, because I think there's a lot of cool stuff there that was shared. So I appreciate it. And especially during your season, to give us a chance to talk to you while your team is on this Olympic break and before you guys go to play some more games there tomorrow. So I appreciate it. Everybody else listening, thanks for listening. And just remember, live Sojo.
Thanks, Cooper.
Thanks.